Where are the sirens? Where are the alarm bells? This is an emergency podcast. Gentlemen, this is very exciting stuff going on here. I am Jason Evans. DBR Podcast fans, welcome to a special emergency podcast. We recorded a podcast like less than 24 hours ago, but we got to get back on right now. I am joined by Donald Wine and Sam Klein. And guys, we're talking about the fact that Duke has, less than 24 hours after Coach K was complaining about COVID and this being not safe. And we talked extensively about the comments that he made. He put action behind his words. It happened this afternoon at 6:16 p.m. The press release hit my inbox from the Duke basketball, the official, communications department for Duke basketball. And the headline tells it all. Duke cancels remaining non-conference men's basketball games. Coach K has decided to cancel all of Duke's remaining non-conference games. I know it feels like that's not that much. It's the Charleston Southern game, but it's also the potential makeup games with Elon and Gardner Webb. So, guys, Sam's like shaking his head. What's up? What's wrong?
Elon.
How many years of this podcast are we going to do before Jason realizes the school is called Elon? Phoenix, the Elon Phoenix.
Yeah, I will say, Jason, literally after we recorded it, this is the second time that we've done this, right? We recorded our episode yesterday. Sam was on for a little bit, and then me and you finished. And literally like 10 minutes after we got off, they canceled the Charleston Southern game because of a COVID positive in Charleston Southern's program. So I jumped back on and just recorded a quick bit. And then now we're fast forward, not even 18 hours later, and here we are.
I'm still under the same gun that I was under yesterday.
It was just a 24-hour gun. You just haven't finished yet.
Exactly.
All right. So, Sam, Mr. Under the Gun, you've had the least time really to process all of this. Give me your reaction. What does it mean that Duke has canceled their non-conference games?
It means that they're doing something sensible. Like, why are they playing these schools that frankly don't have the resources to be testing their players all the time and keeping them away from people? Like, I don't even know if the major conference programs, if the Dukes and all the other Power 5 schools are able to truly isolate their players and their coaches and have all this be on the up and up. So who's to say that Charleston Southern can handle that? Charleston Southern doesn't have a big TV deal where they're bringing in tons of money. So I think it makes a lot of sense for Duke. My one question is, why even bother having a press release about it? Why not just cancel the games and move on? Like, no one, I think that there's a lot of reaction happening because Duke went to the bother of saying we're canceling the non-conference schedule. Like it's a bigger deal than it really is relative to everything else that's going on.
Well, I feel like it's a big deal because it's Duke. That's it. And everyone else who hates Duke wants it to be a big deal. You hear everybody talking about how we were scared of Charleston Southern and Elon and Gardner Webb, which the three of us know that it is stupid. But I will say this. He mainly talked about he had like a minute and a half clip on video that they released on social media. He talked a lot about the need for mental health and sending his players home for a few days because they've been in a bubble since August as a team. They haven't had a lot of contact outside of the program. This makes sense in his mind saying, hey, these guys need to recharge their batteries. They need to go home and see their families. Everyone else in America is, people keep talking about, well, they shouldn't be traveling during the holidays. Everyone else is. So why not these guys who have literally done everything right for the last few months? The only thing they've done wrong in the eyes of people is lose to Illinois, Michigan State. I'll take that any day of the week, right? But these guys need to get a boost, and that boost is coming from their families. Seeing them for a couple days is not the end of the world. They're going to come back before Christmas in time to re-enter the COVID protocols that Duke has, and they're traveling in that sense. So I don't see the issue with it. I think it's good that they're getting a little break, and maybe it'll help them recharge for the ACC run, which is the most important part of the schedule.
And look, 2 nights ago, when I was on the press conference with Coach K after the Illinois game, and we mentioned this on the podcast, Donald. Folks, if you haven't yet had a chance to listen to our latest podcast about the Illinois game, we talk extensively about Coach K's comments about COVID.
We understand because it's been like 8 hours.
Yeah, right. You haven't listened to it yet.
we get it. You'll have 2 now.
Right.
This is not a mistake in your feed. We are here again.
But the point I was going to make is that Coach K, you could tell on that press conference that the fact that players were not going to get to go home for Christmas really bothered him. And I think I think it's very possible that he walked out of that press conference and sort of said, wait a second, I should be able to make this work. I should be able to figure this out. And the way that it works is Duke, by canceling these non-conference games, there's such a long break that they're able to send the players home for a few days. And when they bring them back, they're able to, quarantine them and keep them isolated long enough to have the test results be meaningful and know that everything is safe for Duke to resume practicing. I think it is a wonderful thing that Coach K is doing to do this. And guys, I'll tell you what I think. Donald, we talked about, you specifically brought it up, that in the spring, Duke was the school that sort of started the dominoes falling by saying, we're not playing the ACC tournament, we're not playing the NCAA tournament, and then those things fell apart. I wonder if this may be Duke again starting dominoes falling. It is entirely possible, I think, that we're going to see other schools say, you know what? Yeah, I've played a few non-conference games. I'm not going to play any more. I don't need to play any more non-conference games because it doesn't make sense at a time like this. Sam, I'll go back to 2 podcasts ago. Sam, when you said, why are teams traveling around? The CDC says stop traveling, and teams are traveling around the country, sometimes 2 teams traveling to another site. It's bonkers. And I'm glad that Coach K is the one stepping up and saying, bonkers needs to stop.
I just want to commend Jason for remembering everything everybody else says.
I know, right?
It's because maybe I don't remember. It feels like everything's going a million miles an hour at this point. But so I don't remember which of us edited these shows. By the way, folks, you know that we edit this program. There's a whole bunch of garbage that we have to throw out every time we record. But maybe it's because Jason edited that he remembers everything we said. I'm just very impressed by that, frankly.
No, but it's because your words, Sam, are so important.
Wow, that's the nicest thing anyone said to me all day today.
You mentioned the fact that the dominoes started in March with Duke and coach saying, yeah, we're not going to compete at the ACC. We're not going to compete at the NCAA tournament. He also said in August, yo, guys, you better make this work because we as college basketball can't lose another season. We can't lose another tournament. These guys are, just absolutely out of their minds because they've been talking about this for 10 months and we still are December 10th now and we're still not worried about it. But also I will say this, people are upset. They're thinking that because Duke lost to Illinois, that this is the catalyst for us canceling the rest of the non-conference season. I will say this. I feel like we're in a better position than most conference college basketball teams because most college basketball teams didn't have a choice. They had to pause their programs because they have so much COVID running through their locker rooms that they can't play anybody. So the fact that we have the opportunity to say, you know what, let's take a mental break. I think good on Coach K for doing it because in a year where mental health has been such a big deal and people have been focusing on it, we're now going to bash a guy for taking that and putting that before playing college basketball. Shame on all you who are doing that. That's crazy.
So two things I want to talk about really quick, and then we're going to wrap up. It's an emergency pod. There's not a lot here. We're just rambling left and right. The first one is I'm going to go ahead and predict that Duke may really struggle in their first couple games into the ACC schedule because they are going to take a break. And
we always do too. We always do right
Jason,
around that end of the year.
Jason, this is the least bold prediction I think that you've made in a long time here. Duke is already 2-2. They've lost 2 games at home in the non-conference for the first time since like you were in college, and you think they're going to struggle.
Hey, wait. We did not lose 2 home non-conference games when I was in college. Let me tell you.
Look, I will tell you this. This is not going in the stats game. Not at all. That prediction. A prediction going to stay on this podcast.
The stats
game screwed.
We might have to redo the stats game for conference play.
Yeah. In any event, I was going to say our first 2 non-conference games are at home against Pitt and then at FSU. Actually, Notre Dame. But I'm saying after this break that we're going to take, Pitt and FSU, I think Duke is going to struggle in those games. I'm just going to predict it right now because the thing to consider is, so the guys are going to go home for 4 or 5 days. They're not going to come back and immediately start practicing. They're going to have to go through several days of testing to ensure that no one has COVID, and so they don't start to commingle it among the teams. So this is not a 4 or 5 day break. This is going to end up being like a 9 or 10 day break. And we're going to be playing those games, the Pitt and FSU games, right on the heels of that, I think. And, so like I say, I expect that we're going to struggle a little bit. That's number one. Number two, the second thing I wanted to mention before we just started cracking jokes on each other and stuff like that. Did you guys see what Alabama coach Nate Oates had to say about Duke?
No, I didn't. Why don't you tell us?
Oh, I will tell you. So Nate Oates said, and I quote, "Do you think if Coach K hadn't lost his 2 non-conference games at home, that he'd be talking about, saying we shouldn't be playing basketball right now?" And then Nate Oates said, "We should 100% should be playing basketball." Nate Oates, the head coach of Alabama, is a buffoon. He's an idiot. And I can't believe that he heard Coach K questioning the NCAA's, ability to manage the situation. 25% of games are being canceled. We have dozens upon dozens of teams that have put their program on pause. They're not playing, they're not practicing, they're not doing anything but trying to get rid of the COVID that's running rampant to their teams. And Nate Oates is out here saying, Coach K is only saying this because he lost his non-conference games at home. Nate Oates, you are a buffoon. Donald, am I right?
Look here. I'm going to tell you something about Nate Oates, okay? First of all, Nate Oates better keep this same energy all season long. All season long. I don't want him slipping not one bit, because if he does, I'm going to be there to catch him. Second of all, he's talking a lot of junk for a team that is second fiddle to not even football. Like football, and then there's like women's basketball or something else.
Swimming. I think they're really good at swimming.
Swimming, gymnastics. Look, man, they don't care about you. They don't care about you in Tuscaloosa. I know my family's from there. They don't care about you, dog. So you are going to have to, you're talking and yapping to try and get a little attention. And half those people who are in Tuscaloosa are like, yo, that was nice. Who's that guy? Yeah, he's your basketball coach. So Nate, just take the money and sit down and shut up, because you don't know what you're talking about.
We don't owe this guy a single additional word on this show. Let us never talk about him again. And he's not. Jason, I'm surprised that you brought him up. I've seen a lot of commentary about, Coach K canceling the season, 1995. Shut up, people. We're literally in the middle of a pandemic. Like it's not like the team is bad and like everything else is fine, right? The team is struggling. We've talked about that and don't need to belabor it. But we're in the middle of a pandemic. What?
Yeah,
we're struggling against 2 top 10 teams. I mean,
other
teams are definitely doing worse than that.
Also, a virus that has no known cure. We're struggling against that too.
We're struggling against that, and as of right now, we're still ahead, because again, we've been going 1-0 every day for like 4 months now, and today we might have went 2-0, but tomorrow we're still going to have to go 1-0, and we're still committed to that. At the end of the day, it seems crazy to me, but it seems like everyone is yelling at Coach K for doing this, and it just only furthers the point that I feel like Coach K is the only one taking this seriously when it compared to the rest of college basketball. Everyone else needs to dial it back.
Yeah. We've been saying for a long time, it doesn't make sense. All the commentators, everyone says it does not make sense to be playing college basketball right now. I go back to Jay Billis's comment from last night, where he said, if we were starting the season today, we would say, hold on, we shouldn't be starting the season right now. So the fact that we've already started it is not an excuse to continue it. And Coach K is doing the right thing. He should be praised for this. I'm bummed that we're not going to get, a few extra Duke basketball games to talk about, but this is a smart decision. And I think Duke will not be the last program to do this. So
I would just end, because I want to end on a happy note. I know tonight is the first night of Hanukkah. So to you both, happy Hanukkah. Hope the next 8 days and nights are very, very fruitful for you, because right now we're in the holiday season.
We just finished lighting candles here. So thank you, Donald. I appreciate that. And I will return your Merry Christmas in 15 days.
Sounds good.
Excellent.
All right. So guys, that's going to wrap it up for us on the emergency episode, I should say, of the Duke Basketball Report podcast. Folks, if you're out there, if you've got a comment on this, send us an email, dbrpodcast@gmail.com. Do all that stuff. Like, subscribe, leave us reviews. You know the whole deal. They are Sam and Donald. I am Jason. Duke basketball is going on a little hiatus, but we will not be on hiatus. We will be back this weekend to preview the Notre Dame game and talk about more fallout from Coach K deciding ain't going to play no more non-conference games in this crazy, wacky, weird pandemic season. Till then, here's the Duke band. Take it.